Hello, everyone. Welcome to the HQ, your headquarters for all things sports. Welcome to our first episode. I am your host, Lucas Quick, also with my other host, Niles Hall. Niles, would you like to introduce yourself before we get started today?
I'm Niles Hall, football beat writer for SJSU, also content editor for the Spear SJSU Sports Magazine. We're Bay Area natives, Bay Area sports fans, so this is going to be a place for us to just talk sports and just bounce ideas around.
Yeah, and I'm Lucas Quick. I'm also a content editor and a future beat writer for SJSU football in the fall. I'm heading into my fourth year in San Jose State. I've been doing journalism for about 6 years now. I'm also from the Bay Area. Not fully a Bay Area sports fan. I'm an Eagles fan in the background. We'll talk about that a little bit more on. But yeah, I'm excited to get this started. And now, what a way to start the first podcast of the HQ rather than June 1st, 2026, which is arguably one of the biggest days in NFL history when it comes to free agency, or obviously today was trades. So let's get
Okay.
started. I know you're an NFC West fan with the 49ers. Let's start off with Myles Garrett. That's the first thing that happens at 10:30 a.m. East Western time. Sorry. The Browns get Jared Verse, who's a great edge rusher, 2027 first round pick, 2028 second round pick, and a 2029 third. In return, the Rams get the former Defensive Player of the Year and now the NFL single season sack record holder Myles Garrett. Just what's going through your head during this trade, and being a supporter of an NFC West team, how does this stir up a division that's already been really, really competitive?
It's a win now move. I think as a Warriors fan, this kind of connects to me because I feel like the Rams treat Matt Stafford how the Warriors should treat Steph Curry.
Yep.
They go all in for these players. Like they fix weaknesses for Trent McDuffie. Their secondary was okay last season, but that's even a strength now with Trent McDuffie. And then now even adding to a strength, Myles Garrett. It's an insane move. Um, I think what it means for the rest of the NFC, I think they're just going to be dominant. The only thing I see stopping this Rams team is injuries. Matt Stafford's up there in age, and Devontae Adams, of course, is up there in age, but Puka Nakua's still there. He's up for extension. It just proves like they have that F them picks mentality, and it proves that they've always been about it. They did it in 2023, won a championship. The Super Bowl 61 is going to be at SoFi again, and why not go all in for another Super Bowl at your own stadium?
Yeah, Stafford's got a few years left in his contract deal. They just extended him just a few weeks ago. I agree. I think it's a win now move for the Rams, and it's quite fascinating. All LA teams, or the major sports team in LA for each of the three major sports, have been going all in on getting superstars. We saw the Lakers get Luka. The Dodgers have just had a super team for the last few years, and now you can add the Rams into that list with Trent McDuffie and Myles Garrett on the team. The thing that catches my attention a little bit more. I think people were talking about how the Browns didn't get much in return for the trade. I agree with that, but I don't think it's as bad of a trade as people say it is for the Browns. Jared Verse is an incredible edge rusher. He's going to be the future of that Browns defense. You got to feel for the guy on my side because he's been incredible with the Rams. And one morning you wake up and now you're on the wrong end of the NFL with a rebuilding Browns team. But the Browns do get three good draft picks. You get a first round pick next season and a very, very talented draft class. I do think they could have gone another first rounder. They could have gone three, if I'm being honest. Myles Garrett is arguably the best
Yeah.
player in the NFL. But in terms of capital and volume for the trade, I feel like it's not as bad as people say it is, especially after finding out they get two other draft picks, obviously in a few years later on. But it's not the worst trade for the Browns. I'm happy they sent Myles Garrett away. This has been kind of in conversation for a while now. It's funny, when I woke up this morning, I think it was about an hour before the trade happened. The first video I saw online was someone talking about how there's rumors that the Rams and the Eagles were talking about trading Myles Garrett. And they were like, we can't have this happen. And ironically, less than an hour later, the trade goes down. So for me, it wasn't as much of a surprise because I
Mhm.
read about it literally less than an
Yeah.
hour before it actually happened. What I'm curious about is I wonder what the Eagles did if they were in trade talks for Myles Garrett, because we had a lot of assets and a lot of draft capital to give to the Rams. I'm happy that we didn't get Myles Garrett. In my personal opinion, as incredible of a player he is, we have so many young guys. I feel like our defensive line is not the biggest issue, but I'm curious what that would have looked like. But overall, just an insane trade that happened. I think this is like KD to the Warriors. Like how you said, as a Bay Area fan, it reminds me to that level of extent. It just made already a Super Bowl contender just the next step ahead of everyone else in the league, and they're going to be the clear favorites heading to the season.
Yeah, a move like this, we've been talking about all season. June 1st, AJ Brown's going to get traded, but nobody saw this move coming.
Yep.
I feel like earlier in the offseason, there was chatters when the free agency was happening. But, right now, I saw my boss, Grant Cohen, uh, he made a video about the 49ers should trade last week. He made a video about the 49ers should trade uh, for
For
Miles
Bosa.
Garrett. No, the 49ers should trade Bosa for Miles Garrett, right? And or else the Rams would do it. And as I'm like, I feel like the Miles Garrett trade has been like a miracle, like a
Hmm.
dream as NFL fans. Because me personally, I thought he was going to have to stay there just because of the contract he signed, that 4
Yep.
year major extension. But it's just like it seems like the Rams, um, they don't have a salary cap, bro. Like
They don't.
they they make stuff happen when it seems impossible, and Les Snead over there. I feel like them drafting Ty Simpson kind of even makes more sense because they're not going to have a
Hmm.
first round pick for the next couple of
Yep.
years. It makes more sense now that I'm thinking about it.
It's funny that you say this. I thought about that this morning too. It makes the Ty Simpson pick, first of all, not be as bad as it is because you have freaking Miles Garrett. You don't need any more talent on either side of the ball right now, considering how amazing of an offense they have with Stafford, Puka, Devontae Adams, and Kyron Williams. And now you add the best defensive player on already a pretty solid defense. So I agree. I think the Ty Simpson pick, it's going to be questionable down the road. But like you said, they don't have a first round pick for quite some time. Stafford's got 2 to 3 years left in his career, so might as well go out and get a quarterback right now. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. It's very clear and obvious the Rams are focused on now. Whatever happens in the future, as screwed as they might be, they don't care about it anymore. My favorite reaction, because obviously I follow a lot of Bay Area sports analysts here, was Bonte Hill's video in the morning.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that video. That made me
No, yeah,
laugh a
I
little
saw it
bit. Him with
with the
his
baby.
newborn
Yeah, I
daughter.
saw that.
That was really really funny. So yeah, I think people in the Bay Area not very thrilled about it. I think the rest of the NFL not very thrilled about it. But I don't think the Rams are as much of a lock to make the Super
Hmm.
Bowl as what people think right now. There's a lot of talent in the NFL. It's not a guarantee that the Rams are going to make it in the Super Bowl in the first place.
So what do you think this means for just the overall state of the NFC?
Um,
Like,
I think what do you call it? I think the Rams are the top dog right now. People should be glad that the Rams didn't go to the Super Bowl last season because there's a very good chance that the Rams can make it the
mhm.
next 2 seasons. I think the NFC is still a very, very talented conference. I think you can't turn away from the Seahawks. They had an incredible season last year. They may not be the most like beautiful looking team on paper like the Rams with all these big player names, but the Seahawks have a phenomenally assembled team, and they didn't really lose a ton of assets outside of Kenneth Walker, in my opinion. So I think that they're going to be in the mix for still being a Super Bowl
Mhm.
contender. I still think my Eagles are going to be in that mix. I think the 49ers, if they can stay healthy, they're in that mix. So they have plenty of competition. It's not like the NFC is going to be
Yep.
locked up. They have to make their way to the Super Bowl first. There's through some really, really talented teams. And I still think there's a lot of teams that were injured last year, like the Cowboys. I don't think they're going to be as great, but the Giants, Commanders,
I
there's a
think
lot of teams.
I think the Cowboys, might be good with that offense. Just if Dak gets
Yeah.
healthy, it's just the defensive side of the ball. If they did enough on the defensive side of the ball to just make them confident, because last year that defense was
Mhm.
terrible.
Yeah, I think that like the Cowboys are not going to be a team that have the Rams compete for a Super Bowl, but I just think overall the NFC is a lot more talented this season than
Mhm.
maybe in recent years. Considering if these teams stay healthy, I think the NFC East is a much better division this season. And I think the NFC North has been incredible. They're probably the best division in the NFL right now. So even the Bears and the Packers too, and the Lions, who I expect to take a step forward after a step back last season, they have to get through their way first. It's not going to be an easy road for them, but they do have the best team on paper in the NFL right now.
Yeah, and then also just in the NFC West, I feel like the Rams just secured their spot as in the number one seed. To be honest, I don't think the Seahawks win another Super Bowl. I think the drop off from losing Clint Kubiak, their offensive coordinator from last season, will play a role because he went to Vegas. He's going to coach the
Hmm.
Raiders head coach. Um, I think they're going to struggle offensively early on. And then they also lost Kenneth Walker. They drafted the running back from Notre Dame. I feel like there's still a couple question marks in Seattle. Um,
Yeah, I agree.
for what this means for the 49ers, their week one trip to Melbourne just got a lot harder.
Oh
Um,
yeah, forgot about that.
you have to, yeah, we have to play them week one. Miles Garrett's debut is going to be against the 49ers' terrible offensive line.
Yeah, it's gonna be a
It,
nightmare.
and it's what sucks about this as a 49ers fan is just we've had offensive success against the Rams over the last couple of years, just because we played each other so much. But when you get a Miles Garrett on your defense, that changes your whole offensive game plan. You need a game plan around Miles Garrett, and then you also have to worry about guys on their defensive line that was already good. Braden Fitz, Kobe Turner, uh, and then they have a good secondary. They're good at every level. It's I don't think you can point at a position group that the Rams have that's clearly just a weak link.
I agree. And I think it's quite odd how all three major teams from the city of Angels have pulled up crazy stunts like this. I don't know where the salary is coming from. It's quite fascinating. And the NFC West is going to be in serious trouble, and so is the rest of the NFL. I do agree, though. I think injuries will make or break this team because they don't have the same amount of depth that maybe other teams do. You really are going to have to rely on your star players and hope that they can stay healthy all year round.
And overall, what do you think the AJ Brown trade means for the Patriots? What do you think it means for that team?
Yeah, so as an Eagles fan, my notes were it was due to happen for a while now. June 1st was circled on everyone's calendars for quite the longest time. I just didn't think people thought that Miles Garrett was going to be the biggest headline on this day for the last few months. Um, I'm surprised as quickly as it unraveled. I know everyone around the media were saying June 1st is going to happen. I didn't really believe that. I knew that the Patriots had a trade set up, but I know Howie. I know he's a great manager, and I knew that he was going to look around for other teams to see the best possible deal that he can get out of AJ Brown. I thought the Rams were actually going to be in that mix, so obviously they
Me
were
too.
still part of the news today. It's what do you call? I think for the Patriots, it's fantastic. Their front office has done a fantastic job. I don't think people have talked highly enough about how they rebuilt this team, and now they have a fantastic offense too. I think that was kind of their weak spot in the NFL or in their season last year was Drake May didn't have many great weapons. And they had added Romeo Dobbs in the free agency, which I thought was a very underrated signing. But now you have a true alpha receiver one in A.J. Brown. So I think it's a great move for the Patriots. I was a little iffy on them heading into before this trade happening with a Vrabel situation going down. There's obviously rumors like, is he even going to be the coach during week one? I don't think it's going to be a problem. But now adding A.J. Brown really ascends that offense to the next level. And it's going to be a big deal for Drake May, who's going to have a harder schedule ahead of him, but he's going to have a lot more weapons to distribute around this season. And as amazing the season he had last year, I wouldn't be shocked if he takes another step forward because he finally has a Pro Bowler to throw to. It's a good move for the Patriots. Sad day as an Eagles fan, though. It was going to happen. Um, the last thing I'll note, though, or there's two things. Um, Howie Roseman's done a great job rebuilding this wide receiver core before the trade even happened. We have Hollywood Brown. I think Dontavian Wicks is a very good underrated signing for the Eagles. And then we drafted Mekhi Lemon, and we also added Eli Stowers in the tight end room. So we have plenty of weapons to distribute around. I'm very curious
Mhm.
how it's going to work. Devontae Smith's going to be the clear wide receiver one guy. I'm thrilled for him. I'm a huge Devontae Smith enthusiast. I'm excited for the opportunity he's going to get. But Dallas Goedert, too, I think that this is going to be a good chance for him to get a higher target share in an offense where he got a lot of red zone targets last season. So I think it's a big year for him ahead. I'm curious how they're going to utilize the other guys. I think Lemon's expected to be the wide receiver too, but he's still a rookie after all. I would expect Hollywood Brown to take more of the production before Mekhi, but Lemon's looked great in training camp so far. He'll be a great slot receiver alongside with Devontae Smith. So I think that will be very interesting. The other end, I appreciate AJ Brown for everything he's done. My only thing is I don't like having guys that create the drama that AJ Brown does. And that's why I'm okay with this trade happening. Because keep in mind, the Eagles season last year was a failure, in my opinion, with Kevin Patullo as offensive coordinator. That offense stunk. And I totally understood
Mhm.
why AJ Brown was pissed last year because he didn't get that high of target share in previous seasons. But with that being said, You made the Super Bowl 2 the last 3 seasons. Like people said, the grass is not going to get a lot greener, or whatever he said beforehand. That's just the reality of it. You can't get any better than having 2 Super Bowl appearances in the last 3 seasons and being a holding call away from being two-time Super Bowl champions in those last 3 seasons in general. So I don't know why there's definitely something going on behind the scenes. But with that being said, I don't want that on the team. It could be an issue to the locker room. There's been talks about him and Jalen Hurts' relationship has not been great. You don't like to hear that as an NFL fan and probably as a coach either. So it's probably better to let go of him, take him to a place that he's happy for. He's been a Patriots fan when he was a kid. So I'm not as bummed about it as I thought it was going to be, but he's arguably one of the best receivers in franchise history. It's going to be hard to let go of him, but I think that we will move on from it pretty quickly, and I'm okay with him being let go because probably 3 seasons down the road, he's going to do the same thing with the Patriots. That's just how A.J. Brown works. He did with the
Yep.
Titans, did it with the Eagles last season. It's just how he goes. There's a lot of players like it. So overall, I'm not too mad about it. My question for you is how is this going to change the fantasy side of football? Because now you have A.J. Brown to the Patriots, and like how I said, you have a lot of receivers on the Eagles side.
Mhm.
What do you expect on a fantasy perspective heading into late August, early September for these
I
guys?
think, on fantasy perspective, honestly, I'm just thinking about this. I think Devontae Smith has to be a wide receiver one, just based off of what he's done in the past. I think he'll be in that role for at least half the season while Mekhi Lemon keeps, gearing up. And then for the Eagles, not for the Patriots side, I think it's more of to be honest, before the season, like before this trade happened, I kind of slotted the Patriots in, having a little bit of a Super Bowl slump.
Me too.
Um, I think it's just hard to replicate all the growth they had in one year to not take a step back. I
hmm
think they're going to take a step back. It's not hard. Their schedule's probably going to be a little bit harder than it was last year because they had a historically bad schedule.
hmm
Um, but for fantasy, I think he'll be the number one target in that offense. I think, but they do have good pieces around him with Kyle Williams. Who else do they have? Travion Henderson.
Yeah,
And,
Travion, Ramondre Stevenson.
yeah, Ramondre Stevenson, Austin Hooper. Their tight ends. They always have good tight ends in New England. And then their defense is good with as long as Vrabel is actually coaching football. I think their defense will be solid. But yeah, that's all I have on the Patriots Eagles trade.
I think AJ Brown. This is a better opportunity for him fantasy wise. I think May can sling the ball a lot better than Jalen Hurts can,
Yep.
obviously. So I would really expect AJ Brown to take a leap if you're a fantasy owner this season.
And
I don't
I
know.
think
Oh, go ahead.
I think a Drake May AJ Brown handcuff might be tough. Like I've
Oh
had
yeah.
like a that might be tough.
I don't know where it's still first day of June, so fantasy football mock draft still a little
Yeah.
too early for it. But I would project AJ Brown to maybe being a second round guy just because of there's not much competition in that receiver room in terms of talent. I think AJ Brown is just going to clear above everyone else, and he can have a really good bounce back season after a downward spiral, you can say, with the Eagles last season. And I like Devontae Smith too. I think I saw a stat. He played 5 games as wide receiver one in the last 3 seasons of the Eagles. He averages about 6 catches for 90 yards. So I think that's a very good sign here with a small handful of games. But I think I'm definitely going to keep an eye out on Devontae Smith. He's already my favorite player in the NFL. I might as well stash him in my fantasy roster this year.
Yeah.
But I think that's pretty much what we had for the NFL, right?
I just want to end this topic off with when AJ Brown played the 49ers in the divisional round. He had those I don't know remember
Mm-hmm.
what car those 2 drops, but I texted Lucas in the chat that we were
Yep.
in. I was like, yeah, he's a Patriot.
He's
Yeah,
gone. Yep. He's a
yeah,
Patriot.
he's gone.
I think everyone knew it when that game happened. People go on and say, "Oh, he dropped those balls on purpose." I don't think
He
that
just
was the
he
case. He
mentally looked out of it.
mentally he was out of it. He confronted Sirianni when we were up in the first half.
Mhm.
That entire game, it never felt great, even though we were ahead for over half of the game. But as a fan, you could just tell like there's games where you know there's an era that's going to come to an end. That felt like the end of the AJ Brown era. As soon as the game ended, you can tell that was his last game as an Eagle. So it was going to happen. I'm just shocked it was as obvious as people stated it was going to be. I thought maybe there'd be some unexpected results, but obviously that was not the case. So I think that's it for the NFL free agency. This was supposed to be the bigger topic for this episode, but obviously things change. We now are going to go to the NBA Finals. And we're going to talk about Game 7 first, I think. First of all, what a game. I was at a
Yep.
graduation party in Roseville, but I had to watch that game the whole time from start to finish. And that, I think the series didn't live up to the hype that it should have for most of those games. I think games 2 to 6 were all decided by double digits. Game
Hmm.
1 was incredible, but Game 7 lived up to the hype. So, what are your takeaways for I think it was a relatively decent upset win for the Spurs, considering on how young and inexperienced they were over the defending champs.
It was a very good series. I think the all-time game we're gonna remember for the rest of Wemby's and SGA's career is gonna be Game 1. Um, I also feel like that the Spurs and OKC dominated the series at different points. Um, every, I just feel like this game, people thought it was going to be more competitive. It was competitive at different points, but at the same time, people had double digit. Both teams had double digit leads in both on almost every single game. In one with double digits games leads in almost every game, besides one game one. But when we look back at the series, I think for surely we're going to look back at game one and eventually we're going to notice the implications on what this series has on both SGA and Wemby's career because people are saying they're going to be the next all-time greats. So this series will have a big implication on just the overall state of the league.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway for me on that game was the team effort the Spurs had. The Thunder obviously they had the best roster on paper, but they were severely outplayed as a team as a whole. I had Julian Champagnie had 20 points, 6 threes. Keldon Johnson had 11 points, but he really stepped up in that fourth quarter. He had 8 points in that quarter. De'Aaron Fox, who struggled immensely from the field from game 5 and 6, had a great game, shot 50% from the field, 15 points. Dylan Harper had 12 points. Casual had a great first half. And Luke Cornett's block over Hartenstein, it's one play, but that eventually was the big
Blocked
takeaway.
by Cornet.
Yeah, because the Spurs, they had, I think, 11-point lead. It was cut down to 6. They turned the ball over right there. And Hartenstein, that's going to be an easy layup 9 out of 10 times,
Mm-hmm.
unless you have a guy named Luke Cornett. So the Spurs just severely outplayed the Thunder. I think SGA had a fantastic performance that people are not going to talk about enough. He was the only reason why that game was close, in my
Yep.
opinion. His surrounding
Yep.
teammates were not great. Chet Holmgren, especially. He made one field goal in the first minute and a half of that game. He did not make a single one for the rest of that game, and that's a huge takeaway. When you're one of the secondary scorers, with Jada being out in Game 7, you have to step up in Game 7, and he was a no factor. Wemby dominated it on the offensive side and the defensive side, and he was a no go for Game 7.
I think this is the first time besides the Pacers season, the Pacers series, in 2 years that we've seen OKC have
Mm-hmm.
deficiencies.
Yep.
Um, I think Chet Holmgren, there's a big question mark after this series, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest. And then
Oh yeah.
also just, I feel like a series like that where you just couldn't find nothing going for himself and it's just the overall state of his career. I think I'm really interested to see how he bounces back or see if he doesn't bounce back from this. Um, and
Yeah.
then also it's just what people didn't or it's like a little you said OKC has is they had injuries. J Dub was
Mm-hmm.
in and out this series. AJ Mitchell was in and out. Um, those were scorers that could have got buckets for them, and then also Jerry McCain kind of was hit or miss on at certain points in the
Mm-hmm.
series, and I feel like they lacked the scoring that they normally would produce because I think they got held under 100 points a couple of times in this series.
Oh yeah, they did. There was a quote from Jalen Williams saying that if he played Game 7, they would have won. I don't really agree with that point, just because his injury is pretty major. I think even though they lost Game 7, people might question why did Jalen Williams not play. I think it's a smart move overall. A hamstring injury is a pretty big injury to have issues with. You don't want it to be pushed to another boundary where he can maybe tear his Achilles or whatnot. So I think it's a safe move to not play him in Game 7. I don't think it would have made that much of an effort anyways. I think the when you talk about bouncing back, the Thunder are such a talented team. I'm very curious how they're going to bounce back and respond for a loss like this, because I think if San Antonio lost Game 7, it isn't looked as down upon because they're such a young team. They have no experience. They're going to come back and bounce back next season. I think that's what everyone was going through their heads.
Mm-hmm.
But for the Thunder, this can derail you a little bit. Like, these are your biggest rivals. you look like you're in the driver's seat. You're up three
I
two for
think
5 games, and then the wheels fall off the bus. I don't know.
I think Tim Presti's going to have something up his sleeve. I think their general manager. I think you need to make a move to just boost the morale. I think whether it's trade, it has to be a trade. To be honest,
Mm-hmm.
um, I don't know who you get. Maybe it's a Giannis is in there. They like for sure. We were
Mm-hmm.
just talking about earlier. They for sure
Yep.
have the capital to go get him. It just depends if they want to invest that capital. Invest their future in win now mode, which never know.
Yeah, it's very possible. We're referring to our editor group chat, and I saw a Bell text, "Oh, the Thunder." I thought he was joking, but I sat down like a minute later, and I really think that the Thunder actually have the best case to get
Yeah, they have
Giannis
the best package.
Antetokounmpo. Yeah, they have the best package by a mile. Which,
I think you could trade
yeah,
Chet, or you can trade J-Dub, and you can get Giannis with a couple first round picks.
yeah, they have so many first round picks. They have a lot of young talent. It would not surprise me if the Thunder did pull off that trade. I know NBA fans don't want to hear that, but it is the harsh reality that the Thunder
Yeah,
this can seriously happen in the next few months. I'm very interested to see what will go down, but by far the Thunder, that's the biggest competitor for Giannis right now on acquiring him. It'll
I,
be very interesting.
yeah. I think this will be a little irony. The OKC lost their
Yep.
their guy Katie after the Warriors lost Game 7 of the NBA Finals. They just lost Game 7, and it's gonna be an off season where they can go
Oh
get
yeah,
a talent that will just make them unbeatable.
easily, very easily. Going now towards the actual NBA Finals, we got Game One. I assume it's on Wednesday, right? Wednesday,
Yes,
five
Wednesday night.
thirty, in San Antonio, and I think for me, maybe just because I like both teams so much, this is one of the more highly anticipated finals matchups I've had in a very long time. Even though the Pacers and Thunder went to 7, I don't think people thought the Pacers would make it as competitive as people thought it was going to be. The Mavs and Celtics, that wasn't a very competitive finals. Heat and Nuggets also not very competitive. So I think this is going to be the most competitive NBA Finals we'll see since Celtics Warriors in 22. Um, I know last season was competitive, but I think the Warriors Celtics one was a little bit tighter in terms of all the games
Mhm.
combined. Um, but what are your biggest takeaways heading to the finals? 'Cause I have a few, but I'm curious what you think going into this.
I think the Knicks provide a different look for Wemby and then the Spurs overall. I think having a Cat, and then if Mitchell Robertson plays, and then also they have wing depth they can rely on against the Spurs wing defenders and wing scorers that they have. And then it's going to be a different role for Victor Wembanyama totally than it was last series. Um, I do think that it just depends on if the Knicks can score, because I think the Thunder struggled scoring the ball. This sounds crazy to say, just be off what we've seen from them,
Yeah,
but they struggled with Wimby on the floor. But I do think having Karl-Anthony Towns, he'll stretch the floor out if he stays out of foul trouble, and I think that will
yeah,
help them in their chances in the series. Just overall having Wimby just having to be out of the paint.
yeah. I think that's the biggest thing I wrote for the Knicks is how are they going to handle the task of playing against Wembanyama? Because I think Cat and Mitchell Robinson are two very, very good centers. But I think that the Knicks are not as aggressive on that side of the ball in
Mm-hmm.
comparison to the Thunder. So I'm curious how that's going to look. It can either be that Wemby just completely takes over this series and wins Finals MVP, or it could be the other way around. I think Wemby will have a good impact. That's the biggest thing for the Knicks. For the Spurs, I think they need to play more consistent basketball. This is the issue that I've seen them have all postseason long. And even in game 7, they were up for most of that game, but they let it slip many, many times each quarter. And if you want to win an NBA final series, your first championship with Wembanyama under his belt, you have to be more consistent. There's been too many times where there's a lot of turnovers being committed, bad
Mm-hmm.
shot selection. They have a very talented team, but when having a team that young, those errors are going to happen, unfortunately, but they have to be more polished when it comes to the NBA Finals. I do think they're more battle tested than the Knicks are. I think this can be a bit of a hot take, but I think the Knicks' road to the finals is kind of in my opinion. I know the Hawks were
You
great
could
in the
say that.
second half of the season. The Sixers, they were pretty banged up at that point. The Cavs were a good team, but they just were not fantastic all postseason long. So I think the Spurs had the harder road to get here, and I think they're more ready for the task of the NBA Finals than the Knicks are, but the Knicks just have so much experience, and I think that they're the much deeper team than the Spurs are, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
that's a key point I had, to be honest. I think it just depends on how the Spurs. I think having those first couple of games at home will help them, but it depends on how their young players settle in this role, settle into the finals, and settle into playing at Madison Square Garden, because those Knicks fans are going to be
Hmm.
riled up, and I think the Knicks are going to have to just be ready for Victor Wembanyama. And I think the Spurs young guys are just going back to the Stephon Castle, Dylan Harper. I think those are the X factors. I know De'Aaron Fox plays in there. I think De'Aaron Fox is going to have a great series. I think
Hmm.
he's
I agree.
just. I think that injury he had against, I think he had suffered against the T Wolves, kind of held him back last series. But I think seeing Game 7, Game 6, he's back and ready to roll. So I'm excited to see how their young players do.
Yeah, I think De'Aaron Fox is going to have a role that people don't expect he's going to have in the finals.
Mhm.
Even though he's never made it this far. Heck, he's never made it past the first round in his career until this season. He is one of the more veteran players on the team. I think he's going to be great mentorship for Dylan Harper and Stephon Castle. I'm looking at Stephon Castle for this series because he's such a talented young player, but the turnovers have been such a major issue for him. He had like 20 in the first two games of the last series. He needs to be cleaner with the ball, and I think that's going to be a very important thing that he can do in order for the Spurs to win this finals is to be cleaner with the ball. So I'm very interested to see how that goes. But it'll be a fun series. My Before we do finals predictions, my first prediction is Park 30 News going to be in New York City
Yeah,
for
Park
one of
30
the finals
News.
game. Do you know
Yeah,
by any chance?
I don't think so. I don't know, but that's a good question. I'll probably have to call in on that one and let
Yeah,
us
we
know.
need to reach out to him because there'll be
Yeah,
some groundbreaking videos right there.
yeah, I know New York's gonna be crazy. That's what I'm excited for, to see the antics New York's gonna have for just this
Oh yeah.
whole final series, because they've been waiting since 1999. And this series just overall just has a 90s feel to it. I know people have said
Yes.
it before. It's very 90s. And I know Cat, his first game as a Knicks, he walked in with a 90s 99 throwback T-shirt of the Spurs. Spurs Knicks final series. So
Yeah, I'm excited too because I think this is like two very loyal fan bases for the NBA Finals, which is really exciting to see.
mhm.
I think San Antonio has a very good fan base that people maybe don't credit enough for. But like you said, man, this is such a huge deal for New York City. And I'm happy if either team wins. But I know people are not like too big on the Knicks and they're not huge fans of the city of New York. I'll be very happy for the city if they win a final.
Mhm.
It's like these fans will die for their team. And this is the first time that they've actually gone a legitimate glance at touching an NBA Finals trophy in over 25 years. So I'm very excited for them. I'm excited for the series. What is your prediction right now? Who do you think is going to take it and how many games?
Writing it down, I said Knicks in 6 or Spurs in 7.
Ooh, honestly, I was thinking that too. I had Knicks in six initially. I've been so back and forth about it because I think the Spurs, they
I
have
might be
Wembanyama.
overthinking it though.
I think I'm.
That's what I think. I
Me
might be
too.
overthinking it, but I think this series is going to come down to superpower. I
Hmm.
think Jalen Brunson's going to have the chance in this series to really cement himself as a top five NBA player just overall,
Hmm.
um, in the league right now. But I think if he doesn't play good, I think things could get bad for the Knicks really quickly. So it's going to be a lot on his shoulders. But I do think Victor Wembanyama is going to he impacts the game so
Hmm.
easily, and then having good players around him will keep this series tight just in every matchup. But I think the Knicks get um they'll have that home advantage at Madison Square Garden, and that's what I'm relying on when I say Knicks in 6. Because if it goes back to San Antonio, I don't think they win. But I do
Hmm.
feel like they can steal one of those first two in San Antonio, which will give them the chance to have a 6 game advantage.
Yeah, it was. I've been very back and forth. I think I'm overthinking it
Mm-hmm.
too, just because a lot of people, not the biggest fan of the Thunder team. I think like I really think that that game saved basketball. Like you can say all you want about the Thunder, they're a very good team, but I wrote a whole piece last week on just how unethical they play. So I think I'm a little bit too emotionally attached to San Antonio just because they knocked that off, and we don't get to see a back-to-back champ again this season. But I'm gonna take experience. I'm gonna take depth more. I have Knicks in 7 right now, but the one thing I'll say, I think Wembanyama wins Finals MVP. I think that you don't really see the losing player get
They
it.
gotta,
I think
yeah.
that's how good Wembanyama is going to be in the series. That he
Mhm.
wins Finals MVP.
Yeah, that's not a bad take. I think him or Brunson. I think if I was betting money, it would either be him or Brunson because I
Yeah,
think
easily.
those two will just have the most control of the impact of this series, or what happens in the series.
You never know. I won't count out Landry Shamet yet. He's been damn
Mhm.
near perfect the last few games. Imagine that happens that we have a series with two incredibly talented teams and Landry Shamet runs out with the Finals MVP. I think that would be the best case scenario, in my opinion. Especially if the Knicks lost the Finals and he still gets it, like that would be hilarious, in my opinion. Um, I was gonna say something. I blinked out. You mentioned that you wanted to talk about the Giants a little bit. I have very
Oh,
brief
well,
notes about
hold on.
them. Yeah.
I have an introduction for that.
Oh, yep. So,
The
I
Giants
love the
are
two dots.
the Giants are 3-7 in their last 10 games, and just went on the road to lose at a 3 game, two of the last three to the Colorado Rockies. But they did score 19 runs in their last win, the last game of the series yesterday. How are you feeling today, Lucas Quick, as a Giants fan?
It's it's funny that you mentioned like the 19 runs because I wrote head scratcher in that series. You blow a 3-1 lead or 3-run lead on Friday. You lose 8-3 on Saturday, and then you score 19 runs on Sunday. And like it just like it feels like a look like you mentioned like
Mhm.
how we talked the shooting star award. That's how I give the Giants. You know what? You've been horrible the last few weeks. You've been horrible all
Mhm.
season long. Your offense has been putrid. You scored 19 runs against one of the worst offense or one of the worst teams in the MLB. So I'll give them credit for that. At least
A
we
funny
continue to
comment I
score.
saw under a Giants final score points post was that they scored their points for the week, which was
Yeah,
hilarious.
they scored more points for the week. I bet. I bet there's been weeks where
They
we didn't
scored all
score
their
many
points for the
runs.
weeks, which was
Yeah,
hilarious.
like I was gonna post this yesterday, but I forgot. The Giants play Milwaukee today as we're filming. It would not shock me if the Giants get 3 hits and 0 runs. That would be the
Mhm.
most Giants thing in the universe to go off after a 25 hit game and scoring 19 runs and doing absolutely nothing the next day. And the Brewers are a fantastic team, so it's most likely going to happen.
Yeah.
As a fan, we've tried filming a few times. It doesn't change for me. You know, you have like a
Yeah.
little speck of excitement. And like I think 2 3 weeks ago when we beat the Dodgers on the road 2-3 or 2-4, I was excited. Maybe there's hope down the road. And then we beat the A's 2-3 on the road, but then we lost 6 straight to the Diamondbacks. And I think those two series, I went on Tuesday night. Those two series just destroyed all of my hope, as if I had
Yeah.
any beforehand. But it's just a confusing team right now because normally the offense is the problem, but we've had some pretty good players on offense as of late. Jung Hoo Lee's returned from his injury. He had 5 hits
Yeah.
yesterday. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's his best game of his career.
Yeah.
Rafi Devers continues his streak for the number of doubles he's hit in the month of May. He surpasses any player in Giants history for the most doubles in a calendar month. Fun fact. And Bryce Eldridge had a great game too. And I think the season's done for, in my opinion. This team is not talented enough to get even near the postseason. The one thing that I hope for the rest of the year is just let Bryce Eldridge play for the rest of the season. He,
Which will be interesting.
yeah.
He's been playing because Helio Ramos has been out. Helio Ramos is
Mhm.
supposed to come back in 2 3 weeks. So if you're Buster Posey, what type of move do you make in those next couple weeks?
If anything, have Helliott be left fielder for most of the time, but let Eldridge sit on the designated hitter spot as much as possible. Even
Yeah.
that means Devers has to sit out. We're not gonna make any push for the playoffs. That's just the harsh reality. All Giants fans know this right now. Just let the kid play. That's the only way he's gonna become an all-star, and that's the only way he might become the face of the
Yeah.
franchise in the next 5 years. He's gonna have bad runs. He's not batting great right now, but he's a young player. He's barely played in the majors
He,
before. That's not gonna change until you play him more.
what stood out with Eldridge is he's getting contact on the ball.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's had
Yes.
some big hits. He had a game against, I think, when they were still at home against, who did they play last
The
at
last
home?
ooh,
White
I think
Sox?
it was the
No,
Diamondbacks.
Diamondbacks. Yes.
Yeah.
So he had a hit that just, like the part of the stadium that would
Yep.
be a
I,
home
I
run
was
for the
there. I was
Giant.
at that game. Yeah.
Yeah,
I saw that.
he had a hit would have been a home run, and I was like, he just needs to get more. Which this ballpark's terrible for hitters. It has been historically, but if on the road, if he just keeps getting that road to momentum, I know they're on a in the middle of a 13 game road trip. So
Hmm.
I, I think if he can find his rhythm, he'll have to put Buster Posey in an uncomfortable position because I do feel like just you have to make a move because he's been playing every day now, and you can't just take him out of the rotation just
Yeah.
because. So you're gonna have to make a move on that. And I think the Giants are. It's not crazy to say this, but they're more likely going to be sellers at the deadlines than they are going to be buying this
Yeah,
year.
and I even though it'll be a bummer because I was really excited about this team
Mm-hmm.
last summer when we got Devers. I want us to sell. Get rid of these guys. The Devers contract that's going to stay with us for a while unless you have a team like the
Mm-hmm.
Dodgers who is easily going to pay for that contract for maybe they get him afterwards. Um, But yeah, I want us to sell it. Even if it means the team is going to suck for the next 4 years. We've been really bad for most of the last decade. So it really doesn't make an impact for me as a fan. And at a certain point, you just have to come to realization that this is not going to work out. We've been trying for so many years now. We had one good run in 2021, and that's ultimately it. I feel like the Giants have just kind of been on this fine line of being mediocre. They had one upspurt that one season, but this year we're finally taking a step down, and it was due to happen. The Bryce Eldridge situation, it reminds me of Kaminga, but I think I have
Yeah.
more faith in the Giants than I do with the Warriors because if they take him out of the lineup, this is going to be a Kaminga situation
Yeah.
all over again.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think Kaminga is going to be like this all-star caliber player with the Atlanta Hawks, but we did not keep him in the rotation consistently because we were trying to compete for championships, make the playoffs, and he was very inconsistent. But I went to eat us in the ass afterwards because he never got to grow and blossom as a player after all these seasons. So I think
Yeah.
Eldridge is in that same spot, and it's interesting how Posey and Vitello handle it. I didn't like Vitello's response. I think it was like over a week ago. He didn't seem confident in Eldridge. He's like, oh, "We're trying to win every day." It doesn't
I
really.
don't
It's
think
not.
Vitello looks confident. I like. Oh, I don't know. I'm not a big
He looks
Vitello guy.
lost. I don't know. I
Which
was
is
trying to defend
expected
him.
in his role,
Yeah,
but I do feel like Buster's moves earlier on Friday before that Friday game was, changing out the third base coach. Um,
hmm
who Logan Webb came out that day. So I do feel like they're noticing that they're bad and they're trying to make moves, which that's
yeah,
what I feel like I give Buster credit for is making moves when
yeah.
they're necessary, and he's been really good at that so far.
Yeah, I'm glad they got rid of Borgie or Borgie, however you say it, because that should have been done so long ago, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. It's so funny because like the third base coach doesn't really get regarded that much as like an important role for any team, but he's been an important role for the Giants this season in a very negative tone because there's been so many times where he's either had a runner stay on third base when he could have easily gone home, or call a runner home where he's going to be out by a mile. So I was very thrilled to see that move being done. If I'm being quite honest, that was probably the happiest I've been as a Giants fan all season, is when we got rid of him because it's a small aspect of the team that was really impacting us in a major way. So I agree. I think that they're still maybe trying to see, hey, we can maybe be good with Webb coming back and getting rid of Borgie. I just don't think it's going to change anything. And Friday was the
And
prime
Jung Ho Lee
example
came
for it.
back. Yeah, Jung
Yeah,
Ho Lee
and
came
Jung
back
Hoo
too.
comes back. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think Friday was just the epitome of how the Giants season is gone. Nothing's going to work, in my opinion. I just don't think it doesn't matter how hard you try, how much you get, how much you acquire.
Like
The
I was
Giants are just
watching
not
that
going
game.
to
I
get
was
it.
they had the game in that hand. Like that Friday game was you're right. It was the epitome of the season, and
Yeah.
it's you can't have games like that happen if you're trying to be a competitive team.
I was on a road trip, and I'm very, very glad I didn't waste my time watching that game. I was happy off
No, it
just
was
listening to my music for 2 hours and having a good time and not having to worry about my baseball team
no,
for a few hours.
that game was funny. As a Giants viewer, not a Giants follower or fan, that game was funny. I'm a free agent baseball fan. I would have to let you guys know that. I was an Oakland A's fan, and they left my hometown, so I'm not an Oakland A's fan. So I'm an MLB free agent.
We should maybe the podcast grows a little bit more. Hopefully, fingers crossed, the next few weeks, we should post something on social media, having like we should have listeners or viewers or fans write down applications on why you should join this team and have a we
Yeah,
can make it be a whole episode. Honestly, I think it'd be a genius
yeah,
idea if you have a desk laid out with like 5 Major League Baseball team hats. I know you have plenty of hats back in your day,
yeah,
so you can just grab some random teams and maybe choose one. And who knows? Just don't be a Dodgers fan and don't be a Yankees fan. Those are the only two clauses that I have. I would puke if I saw you in a Dodgers hat. Even a Yankees hat might be a little bit
yeah.
worse too, because you're a knowledgeable man. I don't see you joining the dark side of the Yankees as a team. Maybe the Mets.
Maybe I might be. I know a few Dodgers fans. Maybe I might have to. Actually, I don't.
Don't
I
do
don't
it.
even know. I hate like this might be a little side tangent before we end this show, but I hate LA fans that are like
Yes.
Niners fans. There's,
Yes,
but it makes sense why they're Niners
it
fans. The
does.
Lakers, if there's Lakers, Dodgers, and then Niners fans, I hate those fans because they always
It's
say BLA
yes.
at Niners games, and then when they go to the Giants games, it's like BSF or beat the city. It's like you can't like say it both ways. Like when it's yeah,
It makes plenty of sense too, just because the Rams didn't come back to LA until like maybe a little bit under a decade ago.
mm-hmm.
But it is a huge pet peeve of mine too. It is like, we know plenty of people in San Jose that support the Lakers and Dodgers but are freaking 49ers fans. And for me
Mm-hmm.
it's like worst case scenario because the Lakers, I don't like have crazy hatred for them right now just because like the Warriors are kind of like out of the picture in the postseason. It's not that big of a rivalry. But like the Dodgers and 49ers though, like if you support both of those teams, that's just outright disgusting in my opinion. And the one thing I would chip in too, I think because I know people that used to be A's fans who are Dodgers fans. Matt Bejarano, if you listen to this, I'm really, really sorry. You're a smart man. You've helped me out through my whole college journey. Being a Dodgers fan, changing from A's to Dodgers is a sign of weakness because you're just joining the winning team regardless. Like, hey, we haven't been good for a decade. Might as well just choose the best team. And oh, look, we won 2 World Series now, and I'm a Dodgers fan. Like, there's no like I don't know like you kind of have to go through this journey of being a sports fan to really grow the love for your team, and that's why like yeah the Eagles have been very successful as of late. But when I was a kid, the Eagles stunk for the longest time. We were like 8-8 every single season. We went 4-12 one year. We never really like broke the barrier of being like a contending team. But that's why I love that team so much. Is like I grew up to see the hard times, and now look where we are now. The Warriors and Giants are kind of like roles reversed, and I hate them. But I don't know. That's like
Yeah.
off the rails conversation I
Uh,
have because I've been wanting to get that off my mind for a while now.
Yeah, I feel like we grew up in a time where our teams like it became normal. I've talked to other fans about this. It's just like we became normal for like, oh, the Warriors can be in the championship this year. I was a little kid. I'm like, oh, that's just normal for us. And
No,
now it's like they're
exactly.
struggling. And now it's like they're struggling to even win a round of the playoffs or even get to the playoffs. It's very funny, but I
It's
feel
gonna
like this
piss
is a
so
good
many
point.
people off saying that. It's,
But I feel like the for Bay Area sports fans, it's probably like the like a good time to come up with the '90s because then you can say you like kind of like because I rooted for the Warriors and like the 49ers, but like it's hard for me to remember me rooting for them. But I know I rooted for them. It's just I feel like I gained consciousness in middle school for real, and that's when I just remember all like sports memory.
I think the harsh reality of Bay Area sports fans, especially Warriors fans, we're the next generation of Cowboys fans. We're gonna go
Yeah.
on and rave
No,
about the
no,
4 championships we won. I don't know.
no. Yeah, I'm talking to my kids about Steph Curry, Draymond Green. It's like,
Mhm.
but because like that level of greatness is so very hard to
Oh,
just replicate, and it's gonna be history. We're gonna talk about it forever. But don't be happy, don't be sad it's gone. Be happy it happened. And I feel
real.
like it's a good way to end the
Was it worth
podcast.
was it worth the sacrifice? I think so. But it's gonna be a
It was
really,
one.
really long, grueling road. But it was fun times. That was my childhood right there. It's funny that you mention it because people don't see their teams make the playoffs. And I remember when the Warriors stunk during that pandemic season, I was like, we're in last place right now. This is possible. Like we're
Yeah,
in the lottery right now. We might get the first pick. Like it was so like like not normal for me to have that. But that's just sports for you, and that's why Bay Area sports fans are so spoiled, and it's going to be a rough decade ahead of us. I think it's a good way to end it off, though.
yeah,
I want to give a round of applause to StreamYard because Streamlabs kept crashing on us every single time we freaking filmed. This is the
yeah.
first time that we filmed where there was no issues yet. Hopefully that we keep the
Yep.
transcript, the audio works. But this was our third time, guys. We tried the
Very
last
third
two
time.
weeks. and it hasn't worked. But honestly,
And
I think it's a blessing in disguise. This was a great way to start off the HQ
great
Sportscasts.
episode. Check out a weekly episode. I think we're gonna try to do. I think in the next couple of weeks we'll probably have a World Cup episode with
Ooh,
Ethan and Dachi.
Mr.
And
Ndachi.
yep, Ethan and Dachi, SJSE, soccer beat writer. So I think this is a good way to end off. And Lucas, you have anything else to say?
No, that's about it. Thank you guys for tuning in. We're really excited to get this started. Hope this is a consistent thing moving forward, and we'll have maybe some really cool personalities hop on, and maybe some well-known figures as well. You just have to stay tuned and keep
Yeah.
following us. I think our social media is like the HQ Sportscast. Yeah, it's the HQ Sportscast. Follow us on Instagram. I'm gonna make our TikTok soon. Um, but yeah, I think that's pretty much all I've got to say. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you guys next week.
Stay tuned.